So you might call this a video by popular request. Many subscribers and other people have been asking me what I think about Tech Lead and his marriage, or his now more or less dissolved marriage. Who knows? And in addition to that, I do have a particular interest in offering some commentary because it really is a sterling example of many things we talk about in the manosphere, and also of how, if you're not aware of certain things, you can get completely blindsided. Now, a little background here. Tech Lead is a YouTuber, among other things, who understandably specializes in tech and making money. He's an entrepreneur. He's worked for Google, he's worked for Facebook, and he makes a lot of money. He talks a lot about money. He's very focused on money. But a few months ago, he came out of the woodworks and said that his wife had left him. And this is, in of itself, probably unremarkable. But what is interesting, and I think this is the reason why so many guys have asked me to comment on this, is that he came from a position of just getting blindsided. If you listen to the way he talks about his marriage and his perception and view of the world, it's as if he had been living in a bubble. And indeed, he has been living in a bubble. Now, it's strange to me, and you could say, I guess, to us, to those of us who have had experiences in the manosphere, have become aware of certain things, who have, at the very least, a basic knowledge, understanding, and, most importantly, acknowledgement of the differences between male and female behavior. But most men are not like that. Most men are still completely unaware. Most men in the world, in society, live in a world where men and women are basically the same. They have the same interests, the same wants. Yes, women are kind of mysterious, and that's why you like them, because they're mysterious and because you can't live with them, but you can't live without them. And so most men just have this very basic bones approach to women and marriage and dating, etc., etc. And such was the case with Tech Lead. Tech Lead has no knowledge of sex differences, psychological differences. He just sees this all as part of a work project. And a lot of men do. You just push the right buttons. You pull the lever. It's a bit akin to following a diet. If anyone's ever followed a diet, generally speaking, if you're consistent, you maintain your deficit, however you do that, whatever the macros are, whatever, you will lose weight. If you're consistent. If you're not losing weight, then there's something wrong. Then you're not meeting your weekly caloric deficit. But if you follow it, it's fine. You just need to follow it properly. Just go through the motions. Do the quote-unquote right thing. Same would apply to really any work project. Work hard, do the right thing. That was his approach to the marriage. All I need to do is work hard and everything will be fine. Well, unfortunately, if that had ever existed, because some people, such as Rollo Tomasi, will refer to this as the old social order, that doesn't exist anymore. That's not the case anymore. When it comes to difficult arrangements such as marriage, it isn't just, I'm just going to work hard, I'm going to stick to the diet, I'm going to exercise. It's not that simple, unfortunately. And if you listen to Tech Lead in his somewhat revealing videos about what happened, it seemed as if he was very frugal, one. Two, he spent a lot of time working. He was a bit absentee, so to speak. And there were a lot of communication problems between him and his wife. Go figure. Now, as to why this woman married him, I think she saw economic opportunity, obviously, but then realized later on that that wasn't good enough. It wasn't making her feel, quote unquote, satisfied, whatever that means. There were problems with communication with the in-laws. There were a lot of problems. And he just wanted these things to sort of work out magically, as if through osmosis. Now, from a personal perspective, I'm not sure how anyone can approach a relationship or a marriage not being aware of red pill matters, so to speak, because how can you possibly navigate the labyrinthine insanity that is modern marriage and, generally speaking, women's behavior without having any knowledge of this. And I do realize some men find that appealing, a sort of grand mystery that is no mystery in reality. But, oh, I don't understand. Women are so mysterious. This guy just wanted things to work out. And I think that is a routine and common pitfall amongst men. Rollo Tomassi again refers to this male idealism. I think it's part of that too, but I think it's a bit more complicated than that. Men like following rules. They like just going about their business, getting the job done. A marriage, therefore, ideally should be no different. You just go about your business. You just get it done. You work hard. You bring home the bacon. You try to be a good person. Simple, right? I'm not so sure that's as idealistic as it is a way of looking at the world as simple. You behave a certain way, you do X, you get Y. If you follow your diet and you're consistent, you will lose weight. You study a subject consistently, you will gain some knowledge of it. Putting your work in the marriage, you'll be fine. Now, what's defined as work here can be a bit convoluted. Is it spending time with your wife, as some people have suggested with regards to Tech Lead? Is it simply bringing home the bacon? Is it making wise, intelligent financial decisions concerning the marriage and your offspring? Probably a little bit of all of the above, but it's not a matter of simply following a caloric deficit or studying Spanish a half an hour every day. It's not like that, if only it were. And most men want it to be like that. As we all know concerning divorce statistics, 70% of divorces globally are initiated by women. So clearly it's not as simple as I do X and Y and I get Z and that's it. But that's how Tech Lead was thinking about it. And unfortunately, he still seems to be greatly in the dark. He still thinks it's very, very simple. I did this, I did that. I could have done this differently. Now, if it's the case that she got together with him purely for financial reasons, because he's pretty wealthy, even though he lives in the Bay Area, well, that could be a sign in the sense that, frankly speaking, that doesn't really keep her interest or her investment going. And I'm speculating here, obviously. We all have to speculate. We don't really know. But needless to say, she absconded with his child, his son, off to Japan. To the best of my knowledge, there has been no real communication. And here's the thing, MGTOW, generally speaking, is an avoidant strategy. There's no denying that. It's learning about some of the basic ins and outs of male-female relationships. I like to go into a lot more depth than the basics myself, and just not bothering to varying degrees. For example, you can be going your own way and still date, and in some cases, such as Barbarossa, you can even have a relationship, or you can avoid these things altogether. Marriage is that thing which seems to be a big no-no. After all, if the state has jurisdiction over you and your wife, it's hard to be going your own way. But the real question here, I think, is what do you do if you're a guy who wants to get married and you are hell-bent on it and you want to have children? Well, the problem there is that MGTOW has no answer to that. Not really. MGTOW is an avoidance strategy. We need to be honest about that. And it works well for the men who are doing it. I vastly, and I cannot underscore that enough, vastly prefer my life without the stress of dealing with typical daily female behavior and all the nonsense that goes along in a quote-unquote conventional relationship. I just have no interest in that, and I never will. Not the case for most men. Most men don't deal well with solitude. They don't deal well with what they perceive as a state of being alone. And this then transforms to loneliness. Being alone and being lonely are two separate issues, but for them, it's more or less the same. Being alone is being lonely. And we know that this is not the case. We know from cases such as Robin Williams, who offed himself, that he was surrounded by people all the time, but he still felt lonely. In fact, those people, as he claimed, made him feel lonely. He was surrounded by people, but alone and lonely. Two separate issues. And most importantly, most men want to reproduce. They want to have this genetic legacy. It's just an urge, a tick, an instinct. It's not one I have, but I have to always concede I am the anomaly here. It doesn't interest me. Reproduction does not interest me. That's my starting point. There are all sorts of other reasons why I wouldn't reproduce, but my starting point is I'm not interested. In the case of most men, that simply isn't true. They do want that legacy effect. And they want some female partner because that gives them the magical heebie-jeebies, right? So MGTOW being an avoidance strategy, not much application there. It's easy to say avoid marriage. It's a lot harder to say, well, if you want kids and you want this, there are going to be a lot of hurdles you're going to have to jump over, and it's not going to be easy. And in this matter, I would say that there probably is some value in somebody like Rollo Tomassi, because he spends a lot of time talking about marriage game. He's obsessed with certain terms, alpha, beta, whatever, and he can use those. But if you are going to take the plunge into marriage, you are going to have to game your wife. You can't simply pay the bills. You can't simply do your work and hope everything's okay. Again, it's not a diet. It's not an exercise regime. It is a labyrinthine nightmare, and nobody's perfect at it. Nobody. Which is why if you are that guy who wants to jump into marriage because you really, really want that genetic legacy and you really, really want a wife for whatever reason, you're going to have to learn things like marriage game. You're going to have to learn how to read the signs. You're going to have to learn all of this stuff. And I think ultimately, in regards to Tech Lead, that is the takeaway message. That one, he needs to red pill himself, obviously, on every matter pertaining to men and women. Because a lot of his reasoning, as far as I'm concerned, is post hoc rationalization. Well, if I'd only done this and this, all taken and all interpreted from a blue pill perspective, which is not very helpful. So moving forward, if he wants to get married, and it's possible because he has a lot of money. Let's be honest, there was that recent video where I stated the Academy is catching up, where frankly speaking, there aren't enough viable economic partners for women. I think the percentage cited was 56% more. They should be earning 56% more than they currently are. So this guy has prospects. But if he goes in again without the knowledge available, whether it's marriage game or basic manosphere nuts and bolts, this is probably going to happen again. And so this is a really, really good example, a lesson for Al, for himself, and just a great instance. And by that I don't mean it's great what's happening to him. It's not. It's horrible. But a great instance of what happens when you assume men and women are basically the same, when you don't pay attention to the details, when you act as a worker drone. And undeniably, Tech Lead is brilliant. He's a multimillionaire. He's really entrepreneurial. But here's an issue with men that I've talked about on occasion, and that is tunnel vision, in a form that I might liken to a type of idiot savant. My favorite German expression here being Fachidiotie. You're so well versed in your subject that you don't know anything else, or you're not paying attention to anything else. So yeah, Tech Lead, undeniably brilliant, cannot figure out the moon from the sun when it comes to human relationships, and doesn't pay attention to human behavior. It's all about thingness, classic male interest, I guess. And at some point in time in the past, that might have been sufficient if he had just brought home the bacon and only done the right thing, whatever that means these days. It would have been sufficient. But here's the thing, I think this will be my final point in this video. If men want these things, marriage, children, it's not enough just to operate within your fachidiotisch, idiot savant, tunnel vision modus operandi, because that will screw you over, as we can see. You're going to have to do the marriage game. You're going to have to game your wife. You're going to have to do all that legwork. You're going to have to be aware of the differences between men and women. It isn't just your regular job. You're not just following a diet. Oh, I clocked in my 1,800 calories today, Tomorrow's 1700. Oh, I lost half a kilo at the end of the week. Whoop-de-doo. It's not like that. And I think this needs to be the ultimate takeaway from this. It's a lot of work, and it requires a lot of knowledge, and it is treacherous, and it's impossible to navigate perfectly. I think even a guy like Rollo Tomassi would concede that. It is a risk. You want to take that risk, that's fine. But don't pretend it's as simple as finding a quote-unquote good woman or following your normal conventions of behavior where you just work hard, you do the right thing. None of that is applicable. Not in the details. That's just not applicable anymore. It's much, much more complex than that. That's what I think about this tech lead fiasco. I suppose there will be more to come in future months. Who knows? But I wish the gentleman luck, and I hope he informs himself in the future. Until the next time, as always, may the gods watch over you, and more importantly, may they give more than they take. Bye-bye. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.